Hi there, I'm Ron Rogers, and this is part two of my career adventures as they continue. Now, one thing I learned very quickly in the Air Force is that you can have some good decisions that help you, and you can have others that totally backfire. Now, like I said previously, I chose to go right away to Vance Air Force Base. If I would have chosen to wait a month, it could have been a year. And of course, the decision to go to Vance instead of Williams affected my career. I'm sure it did because, well, I'll tell you about it in just a second. So, I got my instructor, Lieutenant Lazier. Lieutenant Lazier actually had been fluent in Russian and had been involved with the Air Force with some interface with Russians. And I had to take Russian in college because I saw The Great Escape. Okay, well, the guys got shot down, in Europe, and, some of them knew German and they were able to possibly talk their way out, although there were some failures in that. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm going to be an Air Force pilot. I should learn Russian because that was our enemy at the time, still is. And if I got shot down over Russia or something, of course, it'd probably be during a nuclear war and it wouldn't quite work so much on this. But I decided, what the heck, I'll just take Russian. My wife had taken Russian. She was a very smart, still is lady, very smart lady. But I thought, well, I'll take Russian. Well, I've never been that good at language. And I took one semester of Russian in college. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. That semester took me. By the time I got done with that semester, I realized I wasn't going to be able to talk my way out of Russia. I was going to have to shoot my way out. It just wasn't going to work. Okay, Russian wasn't my language. Anyway, Lieutenant Lazier and I got along great. I had done aerobatics as a civilian. I had 150 hours of civilian time, so it was a little intro, but the Air Force is a whole different ball game, and it's a fire hose. But I had a little bit aerobatic experience, and I'd flown a little bit of aerobatics in the T-33 at summer camp. So on the dollar ride, I said, hey, can I do a roll? And he goes, sure. And I go, wow, that was just fantastic. Can I do another one? He said, just do a couple. You don't have to ask me every time. And then I said, can I do a loop? And okay, what's the inter airspeed? So I do a loop and I get inverted at the top. Now, I had been flying a Citabria, a 7 ECA, which does not have a constant speed propeller. And the thing, if you don't have a constant speed propeller, now this is a jet, but okay, negative transfer of training. If you don't have a constant speed propeller, as you come down the back side of the loop, you can overspeed the engine, so you pull the powered idle. So I'm inverted here in the T-37, and I pull both throttles to idle. Now, anybody who's an Air Force pilot or, any experience with T-37 will go, what? Well, my instructor goes, what's going on here? And I said, well, coming down the back side, I pulled the powered idle so we didn't overspeed the engines. And he goes, these are jet engines. You got a fuel controller. You're not going to overspeed them. Okay. Well, I came back and that was the first flight in the Air Force, and I got an excellent on it. He was just so impressed with my attitude. In fact, the other instructors go, what do you mean you gave an excellent on a dollar ride? Nobody gets an excellent on a dollar ride. And he goes, so he had to kind of defend it, But anyway, okay, we're out at Vance, and this is Vance. I mean, this is the big time. High-speed aircraft, jets, and this is serious work here. It goes fast. We lost people quickly. Either they're going, man, this is not for me. You put on all this stuff, the helmet, the parachute, you close the canopy, I get claustrophobic, or the guys got sick, or they just decide this wasn't for me. Or then the other aspect of guys said, this is for me, but they couldn't do it and they got washed out. So we were losing people, but okay, we're going through training. And part of the thing we have to do is, in case you bail out, you come down under a parachute. So we have to go out and we do this little thing where they tow us up under a parachute and then they release it and we come down. We're supposed to do a parachute landing fall. Well, the sergeant in charge of this little operation, it was in a field somewhere north of Enid, Oklahoma there, where Vance Air Force Base is, and the sergeant says, any of you guys skydivers? And I raised my hand, and he says, no stand-up landings. Okay. Well, see, the trouble is, though, stand-up landings had become second nature. I'd had 113 jumps. But the deal is, if you haven't done anything like this, parasailing, skydiving, or that before, you can't properly estimate ground contact. So you have to look out of the horizon, you have to have your knees and legs bent, you have to be ready to do a parachute landing fall. And it'll hits you when you don't expect it because you don't have stereoscopic vision above about 200 to 300 feet, so you can't really see the closure rates and all this stuff. But anyway, what happens is if you try to do a stand-up landing and it's your first jump, you're going to break your leg. So he said no stand-up landings. Okay, well, they release me. I come down, and I got a nice swing on the parachute because these things, they come down, and I did a stand-up landing. I couldn't help it, and he's right. I mean, he's right across from me because I came down right in front of him, and I put my feet together, and then I rolled over in a parachute landing fall, a PLF, and he's just shaking his head and laughing. He goes, "All right." So here we are in sea flight as students. Those are a couple of my classmates. The one guy on the left later flew F-15s. Rocket was a little bit of a character, and the guy on the right, well, there's some interesting stories about him I'm not going to get into, but he ended up being a Boeing test pilot. Now, Brent had been a helicopter pilot in the Army, and we had several people. Well, I'll tell you a little story about Brent. We had several people who had considerable previous experience. We had the class commanders who were captain. They had been navigators. They had backseat F4 time. Brent had thousands of hours flying helicopters. So you come into Air Force pilot training, and these guys are going to do well. They were the top ones in the class, and they didn't give you your class standing until the very end. But I would come back from a check ride, and Brent would ask me. He said, how many goods? Because he knew the guys who were the top in the class. And I remember coming back from one check ride, and it was all excellence except 4 goods. And it came down to the number of goods and stuff. So I had 4 goods, and he would get on his little HP calculator that he paid $700 for and was all ticked off because they were coming out super cheap after that, and he tried to get his money back, and he couldn't. I digress. Okay, that's the short here. But anyway, he puts it in there, and he tells me, "You're number 4 in the class. You're behind me." Okay, cool. Now, why do I get that thumbs up? Technology. Don't you love it? So Brent told me class standing. That was an important factor that comes on a little bit later and was part of the way I kind of got screwed over here. And here's Tom. Tom was a friend, and that's his wife Sue. There, we had a lot of fun together. They were friends until, well, I'll explain about Tom a little bit later here. Tom had some issues. Now, one thing, and my wife knew this. She knew it was very important for me to spend my time studying. This is probably one of my few encounters with my oldest son there, where I'm actually feeding him, because most of the time I was kind of not a very good father because I was just so involved in pilot training stuff that's where my focus was. So I apologize for that. But here we are, primary flying jet and the flight manual. I mean, this is a complex aircraft. There are all sorts of dials and clocks and gauges and stuff, and it can be rather intimidating, and the program is intense. And you solo pretty quickly or you're out. I mean, you can spend years trying to get here and be gone in the first month. And there's our class. We still have a lot of them that we haven't lost yet, and that's me in the right there, the kind of the top middle there, and in our class picture, and all the way over to the far side here. The gentleman there who's a captain, he comes into play later, and Captain McCracken, and I'll tell you about how he comes into play later. All right, so we're learning to fly jets. We're having fun. We're doing contact, which is just basically air movers. We're maneuvers. We're doing loops, rolls. We're doing navigation. We're doing formation. And we do formation going across country. This is going into Dyess Air Force Base. We're going down to San Antonio, and I'd never been to San Antonio before. That is a cool city. And there's our stop. We're waiting to get fuel. They had to fuel the Iranian generals first, and we made a comment to them that, hey, those 3 stars on the Iranian uniform, they're not generals. But anyway, we're waiting to get fuel. And you can see the B-52 tails in the background because Carswell was a B-52 base. And there's Bob. You remember Bob? I told you about Bob. We grew up just half a block from each other. We went through college together. We went through ROTC together, and we were in the same class at Vance. And there's Scap. Bob actually got a C-130, and he worked when he got out. He went to work for Air Florida, which, as anybody who remembers their history knows, they kind of went down the tube. So he ended up having a long career with the FAA. Scap ended up getting an F4, and I don't know whatever happened to him, but he was a good pilot. All right, now we're getting into the T-38. I mean, my gosh, I'm just studying the Dash 1, and I am just in awe of the speeds, the performance. 720 degrees roll per second, 30,000 feet per minute climb. It's a supersonic aircraft. And then I get to go supersonic. Now, you look at that date, 73, and I think the first supersonic flight was in 47. So we're talking maybe 25 years after anybody went supersonic for the first time, we're going supersonic. And, it's much closer to that period than it is now, 45 years after this event or so. But I got to go supersonic, and that was a kick in the pants. Of course, we did a burner climb, and it was funny. The T-38 was so sensitive. I'm holding the stick, and I'm getting this lateral roll because I'm holding it so tight, and I'm just, I guess, enough nervous that I was putting in this roll. This is a sensitive aircraft. The roll rate was so sensitive. I had to calm down and use my fingertips. And we had our manuals there, the flight manual and advanced flying jet. Now, this was a fun airplane. It's fast. It's fun. It's a cool airplane. I absolutely love the T-38. I absolutely did. I enjoyed it. But, now here's Tom again. And that's my wife, and that's my oldest son there, and that's Sue there. Now Tom, we had this instructor, and I talk about him in another video, Flanny, whatever. I'm not going to give his full name, but he wanted to be a fighter pilot. He did not like being a T-38 instructor, and he didn't kind of bloom where he was planted. He disliked doing it. I mean, I would have loved the job. He disliked it. He made it known to everybody that this wasn't what he wanted, and he took it out on the students, really. And Tom washed back. Tom had a little trouble. His first 5 takeoffs, he kept forgetting to put the aircraft into afterburner. And that just irritated our instructor to no end. He would come back and just furious. And of course, he actually one time even apologized to me because he'd just flown with Tom, now he's flying with me, and he's still carrying it over where he's just angry as could be. Late in the program, I requested an instructor change, but it was at the point where it was really too late, and they couldn't really put me with other people, and it was almost a waste of time. I waited way too long, because having an instructor like that, if you got a bad instructor, it really affects how well you do. It really does, and it did for me. Well, one of the things we do is we learn egress, and this is our class group there. And here's where we have to open the canopy and with everything on, jump out. Now, this is kind of an interesting picture because I didn't get the latter part of the picture. If you notice the guy in the back seat there, you can't really see it, but his boot is caught on the canopy rail, and it catches, and he comes down head first, hits his head. So that wasn't a very beautiful egress. But all right, we're going cross country again. We're going out to Denver, and we're going out as a 2-ship, and I'm the one taking this picture. That's aircraft 746, and I happen to be in 745. Well, we're coming to an end. We're flying 4-ship formation. We're just having a great time, and I am absolutely loving this aircraft. There is our class picture in 38s. Pretty much, I think everybody in this picture survived till the end. And for fun, I put together this little shadow box. It's got the time I was in the class, due to the energy crisis at the time, where the Arabs cut off oil to the United States, they lengthened our class from 7407 to 7501. But Gordy Davis, one of our classmates, who was very artistic, he unfortunately died trying to loop a T-39 in Korea. That was his assignment, and they were not successful. He was actually an instructor on it. Yeah, two instructors and another guy tried to loop it, and they got into Mach Tuck, and it was not successful. But he was a great artist, designed that patch. I was in C flight for T-37s and L flight for the T-38s. But finally, I get the coveted Certificate of Aeronautical Rating. Now, like I said, I love the T-38, and basically the flight commanders at Vance said, well, you can bid a fighter if you want, but we get the choice of the top students who we want to keep as instructors. And if you volunteer, see, I didn't know exactly where I was in the class, and there was a cutoff, and we had, like I said, a lot of experienced people, so I'm already down the list a little bit, and I didn't know if I made the cut to get a fighter, because if you were in the upper, I think it was 10%, you got what you chose. Now, the trouble with my instructor is, my really lousy instructor, I did not do as well, okay? I'll take some responsibility to that. I love the aircraft, but it was hard to fly with somebody who was always screaming at you. And it made it very difficult, and my class standing, I knew had gone down. So I didn't know if I could qualify for a fighter. So I decided to play it safe. It's not always good to play it safe. Sometimes you have to take risks. You really do. So it was a decision to play it safe. And I made several decisions to play it safe, and sometimes I regretted that. Should I have been more brave? Should I have risked more? But I was going to play it safe, and I go, okay, well, I love the 38. It's a great airplane. If I volunteer to be an instructor, I'll get a 38. And they basically told me, if you don't volunteer to be an instructor, we'll put you in a T-37. So I go, okay, I'm trying to reduce damage here. I'll take the 38. I'm happy with that. So they get us all together out at the officers club. They got this room. They call us individually by class standing. And I realized that when they were doing that I would have been high enough to get a fighter if I chose. But I'm going to get, I had volunteered to be an instructor, so that's what's going to happen. So I walk in there, and the wing commander who's giving out the assignments said, Lieutenant Rogers, we got your wings and all this stuff, and your assignment, we decided to keep you here at Vance. Well, okay, we decided to keep you here at Vance. I knew that was coming, and we're going to keep you in a T-37. And I go, what? A T-37? And we got the T-37 flight commander, who I later worked for, and the T-38 flight commander there, and the T-38 flight commander starts laughing, and I go, what? Why not a T-38? And they said, oh, Captain McCracken, who was the class commander, captain, first, second lieutenant, captain, you kind of see where this is going here. He decided at the last minute, I mean, literally the day before, he decided he wanted to stay, be home every night, and be an instructor. They had one 38, one T-37, so guess who got the 38? He decided he wanted the 38. I come out of there. I wanted to quit the Air Force. I was so mad. Is it too late? Is it too late to get out? Yeah, it was. But I was so ticked off. I was livid. I was mad as could be, and it showed. I didn't contain it. And Captain McCracken, to his credit, we weren't close or anything in the class, and he said, well, if you dislike it that much, I'll take the T-37. You can have the T-38. Okay, on the spot, momentary decision, I decided no. They gave me a 37. I thought I would look like a whiner and a loser and a complainer and that, and I thought that would follow me. And I thought, this is what I was assigned. This is what I got. I really appreciated that he would be so generous as to offer to make the change, because apparently, it was in his power because he had volunteered and chose the 38, so we could have swapped. And that would have changed a lot of things. It really would have. And I'll explain how that would have changed, I'm sure, things in the next little dissertation here. All right. So the key from Mrs. Corder to my wife, bloom where you're planted. That was the key. I'm a T-37 instructor. I didn't want it. I didn't like it at first. And I'm not sure I ever really did thoroughly like it, but it's what I was assigned. It's the job you do, and that's the way I went. I hope you found this interesting. Stay tuned as the adventure continues. Thanks for watching.